I'm Hugh Hewitt. I hate fake news. Right now, a few members of the left wing legacy media are trying to push the story that GOP Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel has not locked up the RNC. That's not true. She has locked up re-election as the RNC Chairwoman. I'm very glad that it has happened. It's a matter of math. There are only 168 votes, and I think you've got more than three-quarters of them locked up, Chairwoman. Welcome back. Would you confirm that for me? How many do you have locked up tight?
Yeah, I have over 100 locked up tight, public putting their names out there. There's more that have not put their names out there because my opponent's putting a maximum pressure campaign on them. But, the members who know us best and know me best and understand what the RNC does are pleased and understand that we're already in a presidential election and that this isn't the time to rebuild and start everything from scratch. And they also are looking at the positive race that I'm running about unity and bringing our party together to victory, and they're seeing the opposite from my opponent.
Look, I've got nothing against Harmeet. I just don't like media that are pretending this is a contest. This is not a contest. You have won. There's a formality ahead. When does the actual vote occur? Which state does it occur on, Chairwoman McDaniel?
It happens on January 27th in California, but I'm going to still work for every vote, Hugh. I'm going to make sure I don't want to take anything for granted. I'm talking to members every day about my vision going forward. But I have vast support, and those names are out public, and nobody's moving.
It would truly be a disaster to switch horses in the middle of a rising tide. We have won the House. Speaker McCarthy, I don't know if Speaker McCarthy is coming to the RNC, but congrats and props to you and the RNC for getting us to a majority. There were red thunderstorms, but no red wave, and we just got to keep building. If you just keep doing every 2 years what you've done the last two cycles, I'll be happy. We'll have no Democrats in 10 years. That would be good.
Thank you. And I do think, we're heading towards a great 2024. The Senate map was not great for us in 2022. It will be great for us in 2024. And people who understand what the RNC does, listen, we don't pick the candidates. We don't do the messaging for the candidates. But we do the voter registration. That's already happening. We are reaching out to Hispanic, Asian, and Black voters. This has never happened with the RNC. That's already happening. Under my tenure, we've started election integrity with poll watchers and poll workers being recruited with 100% coverage across the country, which we had this election. That's already happening. You can't tear down the infrastructure before an election and then think it's just going to be there. This is something that started right after this election and has to continue through 2024.
So I just want to tell my audience, if you see a story that says there's drama in the re-election of Ronna McDaniel, that's fake news. There is no drama. It's done. I really do resent people who come in because they got to write a story. I just rebuked my friend Henry Gomez because he was trying to say, oh, there's a new resolution out. And they're just, so what? There are a couple of state parties that don't like you for a variety of reasons, none of them having to do with you. They don't like the fact of X, Y, or Z, and they want more money or more staff. Or I don't know why they're mad at you, but they don't have the votes. They're not even close to having the votes. You've got this locked up. It's all fake news that you don't. Now I want to ask you about serious stuff, real news.
Sure. Yeah.
Katie Porter announced yesterday she is running for That's a threat. She threatened to, and now she's going to run for Senate in California. Almost certainly a Democrat will win that race, and it will probably be two Democrats against each other. So I'm not here to talk about who the Republicans ought to run. I'm here to talk about Scott Baugh announced immediately that he's going to renew his effort, which almost won against a new Democrat who will probably be a left-wing lunatic like Katie Porter is, but only more. What do you think about that? Katie Porter just turned her back on the voters that are elected her less than 2 months ago.
Yeah, I thought I was campaigning with Scott Baugh. I mean, he's such a great candidate in the Orange County area. And when I saw that she announced, just after getting elected, it showed what her true ambition was. I hope the voters see through her. I mean, she is not a nice person. Anybody looking at her text exchanges with her staff and others, she's a phony. But Scott Baugh is a great candidate, and I think that means that's another House seat that we can pick up in California. We picked up Duarte this cycle. We picked up 4 in 2020. And I think Scott Baugh's on his way to being a congressman. We've obviously got to do the work, but he would be a great pickup for the Republican Party.
Now, Chairwoman McDaniel will also get new congressional maps in at least Ohio and North Carolina. Their Supreme Court's flipped. How many seats do you think are going to be now competitive that are currently held by Democrats in those two states that otherwise were not?
A lot of people don't know the RNC heavily invested in those Supreme Court races because if we flipped Ohio and we flipped North Carolina, that the maps were undecided from the 2020 census. So I think Ohio, you could get 2 to 3. It's going to, there's going to be lawsuits, then to go back to the Supreme Court, which we flipped. And then I think North Carolina, you could get 3. We should have had 3 more this cycle. So that would be, I think those would go Republican, and that would add to Kevin McCarthy's majority. But these were intentional investments. I worked with the state party chair in Ohio and the state party chair in North Carolina specifically to flip those Supreme Court races, and we did.
Yeah, the stuff you never see. Mike Pompeo and Chris Christie co-chaired on something that Ronna got going called the GOP Redistricting Trust, and it was successful in Ohio and North Carolina, but it takes 2 years to bear fruit. That's another reason Ronna's going to win. But the question is, so maybe maximum of 6 advantage at the start from the majority. Have you already identified the target Democrats?
I have not. I know we have. The team has. I'm not as familiar with all of it, but it's going to be a total redraw. I mean, remember, North Carolina did this right when Trump took office. The Supreme Court came in and redrew the whole state, and we lost about 3 seats. Republicans did. So I think we're going to see a similar movement this cycle, but there's definitely room to pick up seats in all of those, both of those states.
Now, in the other 48. There are very close races that we won that need to be defended, and there are very close races that we lost that need to be challenged. On the latter, do you have a list already of the most vulnerable Democrats who are currently sitting in the House of Representatives in the other 48 states, not including Ohio and North Carolina, because those maps aren't moving?
Yeah, I certainly think Washington 3 and Washington 8 are potential pickups in that state. I think Michigan 3 is a pickup. I mean, there's a lot of seats that were close for us. If we get the right candidate, we're going to win those seats back. And the map's even broader than that. And then we've got to defend. We're always going to have to defend some of these tight seats. But I think we can expand our majority in the House in 2024, especially when we're coming into a presidential year where there's higher turnout and we have a good candidate. Our process has already started. Our debates will probably start in July of this year. That's already beginning right now. And so this is a critical time for Republicans. And this is my admonishment, Hugh. If you look at some of the aftermath of these midterms, Republicans lost races because other Republicans didn't vote for them.
Yes.
We can't be so vitriolic and so hateful towards each other because, one, we turn off other Republicans, but 2, nobody wants to be part of a party where they're always fighting each other, when they're always attacking each other. And so I think of Reagan all the time right now. We need to embody the 11th commandment. We need to unify. We need to put forward a positive vision for the future of this country, because what Biden's doing is disastrous. And all this infighting in our party is never going to help us. And if you look race by race, we had split tickets in almost every battleground state. That means one Republican attracted Republicans and independents and Democrats, and one didn't. And the winning recipe is addition, not subtraction, and that's what I'm running on.
Now, Stephen Daines, senator from Montana, is in charge of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. He is out busy recruiting in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, in Montana, in West Virginia, in Nevada, all pickups. And there might be others out there. You're out busy helping. Arizona, absolutely. Yep. Arizona. And so we need very strong candidates. But you just mentioned the debates. So, I keep lobbying to start them in May. I guess I'm not winning. But I hope that you get small dollar donor involvement. You get people involved in that, because they're very exciting debates that are going to happen. And I want to talk to you about the border, and I want to talk to you about the ask. The debt limit is coming up. I've talked about it with a couple of people already this morning. I talked to Tom Cotton about it yesterday. Republicans can focus on one thing in exchange for raising the debt limit. Jim Garrity just suggested to me it's the repeal of the 87,000 IRS agents. I have been pushing for finishing the wall and doubling the Border Patrol. I don't know what it is, but do you think we'll be able to get together and frame the demand on the debt limit raise, Ronna McDaniel, so that it's coherent, consistent, repeated endlessly?
Yes, I think we will, and I think we have to hold the line. And I was just at the border. I went over to McAllen when Biden did his fake visit over in El Paso. He went for 2 hours. Shame on him. It's 2 years too late. But talking to these Border Patrol families or friends of theirs saying there's a high suicide rate. They do not have the resources. They can't talk about it because of retribution. I was next to a huge gap in the wall. People who lived in that community were talking about, severed heads, kids who are being human trafficked, the horrific things that are happening at our border. There is nothing humanitarian about what's happening under the Biden administration at our southern border. Republicans have to hold the line, and we have to take our case to the American people as to why we cannot budge until these things are fixed.
So it's really just sequencing. You get one thing with the debt limit, you get one thing with the government shutdown or the threat of thereof in the fall. And I think we've just talked about the two of them, the 87,000 IRS agents in the border, the staging of them. I don't know when they get together and begin to message on this. When the RNC gets together in 2 weeks, I hope I see you, by the way, I'm out in California for the duration, but when you get together, how much is mechanics? I mean, they got to reelect you, but how much is mechanics and how much is strategery on messaging?
So a lot of it's going to be mechanics, but I also think strategery on messaging is going to be key. I love that word. Listen, I've assembled a Future of the Republican Party group, and I think part of what the aftermath of 2022 is Democrats spent $30 million on abortion and the Dobbs decision and a lot of these races, and a lot of our candidates just said we're not going to address it. And you can't ignore $30 million being spent against you, saying you won't give life-saving care to a woman who's having a miscarriage or who has an ectopic pregnancy. So we have to be strong on messaging, and we've got to push back. And I do agree with you, Hugh. It can't be 5 things. It's got to be coherent, quick, 2 things. The border, I think, right now is a big issue because it embodies the disaster of the Biden administration, security, safety, the drug crisis, human trafficking. So much is at stake with our southern border.
And so much depends on the debates. And you've been working on this. I want to tell people, Ronna McDaniel and Dave Bossie have been working on this for a year and a half. Am I correct? You know what we need to do, which is to present our candidates the opportunity to speak directly to the American people without legacy media blocking and tackling for the Democrats, which we've run into before. You confident you got a good package coming up?
We do. We're actually meeting today, Hugh. The debate committee is going to talk today, and I'll be with Dave Bossie tomorrow. We're going to be doing some debate meetings in New York, and we're forging ahead. And we've put out some RFP processes, and then we'll unveil the criteria for the debate stage, probably debate by debate for the candidates, so they know what they have to the benchmark.
Okay, when you sit down with Dave, just say, Hewitt says more and faster, more and faster, more and that's my messaging, more and faster. Okay. But whatever you come up with, it will be well thought out, well executed, because the RNC is running very well under Ronna McDaniel and will continue to do so for the next 2 years. Chairwoman McDaniel, thank you.